Hey guys, AuspiciousAussie here, and welcome to episode 2 of our Local to Global series. Now, this episode, I think the first thing for us to sort of focus on would be getting the title up and running. I have created a title. I essentially just use one of the generic sort of Canadian-based world titles. And what we're going to do, well, what I've done is obviously put the CWC logo on the sort of belt plates, and I feel like it looks pretty good. So we'll get that up and running, but that's going to come before our first big pay-per-view, which is Victory. I feel like it's pretty fitting for Victory to be our first pay-per-view that is essentially going to determine our first ever champion. So that's going to be sort of the main focus, at least at the start of the episode. I think we also want to maybe look at signing some more guys, but of course that'll sort of come into it once we sort of see where the debt is going to be. Now, of course, one thing I do want to mention is if you want to play TEW and you are sort of tossing and turning, not 100% sure, I do have a affiliate link down in the description down below. You can use that, support the channel, and of course you can get yourself TEW 2020. Alright, so with that said, let's have a little look at the roster, of course. We have Alexander Robinson, who is, unfortunately, he's my character that I'm playing as. However, he is no longer a wrestler. Does have really good popularity. But if we look through the rest of the roster really quick, we've got Americano Jr., we've got Captain Canada, we've got Gregory Chapman, our referee. We've got Jason Van Pelt, who we will probably get rid of soon. But I think for now, we'll keep him around, at least for the next couple of episodes. He is sort of one of the better performers, but he's also on a bit more in regards to his wages. We've got Marcel Lafleur, who is really good and pretty cheap as well. We've got Murray Firth, who is very young, still quite a lot of work to do. I was going to say a little bit of work, but a lot of work. Spencer Edmund, I really like the look of this guy as well. I feel like he's definitely got a future in the company. Really good star quality, really good charisma for him. We've got Topher Smith, who is our sort of standout in regards to our roster at the moment, I would say. And then finally, we've also got Virgil Voss, who is sort of another up-and-comer. So that's our current roster. Like I said, we might add a little bit to it, but I think the most important thing for us right now is to try and increase that size. We finally got the 1 popularity increase in Ontario, and of course we want some more increases. So let's get into the next show. Of course, these early episodes, they're primarily focused on just grinding things out, getting yourself profitable, getting the popularity that's necessary to then, create a company that's going to start to compete. And of course, that is essentially our, number one prerogative. Of course, we do have our rival companies that we're versing, as well as, the challenge itself being local to global. And of course, Black Maple, they're in a very similar situation, although they do have money. So I'm expecting them to primarily just do 1 show per month, as that would kind of make the most sense. And with that money, they might be able to bring in some decent workers. We'll just have to wait and see what they do, essentially. If they get enough popularity over the coming years, they might actually be able to get onto the Wrestle World TV network. Of course, it is primarily based around sort of the smaller companies in the game. Anyway, we've got a lot of processing here. I mean, Almidico, he would have been a great person to sign, of course. You used to be able to sign him back in the day. Now he's working for EILL. Alright, so let's get into this next show. I think we have one more weekly event, one more Coalition Wrestling. We've also got an absent worker. So yeah, Jason Van Pelt, once again working for Sideshow. Murray Firth with an unfortunate incident there as well. Let's try and do a little rib. Let's go with Topher. Nothing doing. Alright, so once again, we're expecting 20 fans in attendance, so that's not too bad. essentially double what we got last time. So I guess for this main event, let's go with maybe Marcel and Americana. I think that could be pretty interesting. Let's go 20 minutes for those two. And I think let's go with Marcel to get the victory. I don't think they can call the match, and I think we'll make it tainted as well. I'm going to double check Marcel. Yeah, 51 psychology. He's lacking a little bit. I think Americana is as well, to be fair. Oh no, he's 69. Okay. Interesting. Anyway, there we go. That's our first match on the card. It's excluded, already booked as well. Let's go Captain Canada and Murray. I guess, seeing as Murray gave us incident, we may as well give him a loss here. So Captain Canada can get the victory. I think we'll probably do maybe a fatal four-way at the first pay-per-view victory. I feel like that'd be the title match to determine our first ever champion. Let's go with Topher, and he can take on Virgil Voss. I don't think we've done this match yet, so that's kind of perfect. Give them 12 minutes as well. And of course, Topher, sort of our, like I said, he's essentially our best worker at the moment, in my opinion. I think Van Pelt might be a little bit better than him. But at the same time, I mean, Van Pelt's probably not going to stick around purely for the fact that he is missing on some of these shows, and we really don't want that. It's worth noting that Americana Jr. actually has relatively good entertainment stats. So I think I want to give him an angle here. Let's give him an 8-minute angle. I guess it can be by himself. Yeah, it works. Have that go there. We also need a storytelling match. I wonder if we could fit another angle in. Let's try and fit another one in, because I want to have Alexander Robinson be our road agent. So, not be our road agent, be in the angle is what I'm trying to say. I want to give this 6 minutes, and let's go with Topher and Marcel. Don't think they have to be rated, but let's advance a storyline there as well. And hopefully that should be fine. Of course, we're kind of getting a bit of a penalty, but that's perfectly fine. So let's run the show. We start off with a 53 rated angle, which is actually really good. But as you can see, Americana Jr. not doing too well with his road agency. But we do have Alexander Robinson. And of course, he's the road agent. He's also the owner of the company. You know, owner of the coalition, if you will. And of course, he's also somewhat of an authority figure. Well, that's at least how we're going to use him at the start here. And of course, he's essentially discussing plans for both Topher Smith and Marcel Lafleur. Essentially letting them know that he's going to be giving them an opportunity to become the first ever champions. So there we go. We then start off with our first match, getting a 30 rating. We have Topher Smith defeating Virgil Voss in 12-12 by pinfall with a gopher suicide dive. It's a good match, 38 in ring for Topher. This one's not so good, getting a 22, where we have Captain Canada defeating Murray Firth in 11-31 by submission with a Montreal Crab. Of course, Murray Firth really off his game. We then go into a 45 rated angle, which is actually pretty good considering it's just Americana by himself. But he basically, essentially puts his hand up and says, essentially directed at Alexander Robinson, that he wants to be in the Fatal 4-Way match, and he feels like he deserves it, and he's going to prove it tonight in the main event against one of the sort of front runners in Marcel Lafleur. And of course, Americana working the crowd well, improvising without a script. So that's good to know. It's really good to see. I think Americana is going to be one of our big stars going forward. And finally, the main event, it does relatively well, getting a 37. And unfortunately, I thought I booked... Anyway, doesn't matter too much. Obviously, Marcel is one of the favourites. So Marcel Lafleur defeating Americano Jr. in 2013 by submission with a Parisian chicken wing after blatantly cheating. Okay, yeah, I remember actually booking that. Yeah, so he cheated to win, essentially costing Americana, or so Marcel thinks. Essentially costing him from potentially getting into that Fatal 4-Way match. But I think we'll have a nice little surprise. Anyway, overall share rating getting a 38. So I think that's actually up from our previous shows. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's up there. And I actually think that was a pretty well-booked show for what we can do. Alright, so we're still at 1 popularity, that's fine. I'm kind of hoping that we'll get up to 2 before the end of the month with our next pay-per-view. I think I can actually create the title in the next screen, so that's fine. I was going to pause it there. Stop the auto-processing. But we should be fine. We should be able to create the title and get things up and running. Alright, let's have a look. Yeah, so we can create the title. Alright. It's essentially just going to be the CWC World... Yeah, CWC World. I was going to put World Heavyweight, but I don't think World Heavyweight's really necessary. So CWC... And there we go. The World Champion. As you can see, we've got the CWC logo with the bear there. Really like that logo. It was kind of one of the reasons why I chose to do CWC. Obviously, Canada has a pretty rich history with bears and stuff like that being in their wilds. And of course, we've got the maple leaf on the title there as well, you know, symbolizing it's a Canadian company. I like it. I feel like it looks good. I think I want to do male only, but let's leave it. I think everything else is perfectly fine. I think everything else is kind of just to do with the AI, so it doesn't really matter too much. Alright, so the current prestige is 30. And I am really happy with that. So, here we go. CWC victory. Let's get into it. Alright, another backstage incident. And it is Marcel almost getting into a fight with Murray Firth. Quite a few negative, incidents happening. And Jason Van Pelt, unfortunately, also working elsewhere tonight. This time for O'Lee. Let's do a rib. I was trying to do a rib on Gregory Chapman, our referee. And we're expecting 52 fans for this event. So let's once again go generic. Because that's fine. Perfectly fine. And let's book our Fatal 4-Way match. So, it is going to be Americana. It is going to be Marcel Lafleur. Hofer Smith. And then I think it's either between Captain Canada or Spencer Edmund. I think Spencer is actually better. So let's go Spencer. We also didn't use him in the last show. So there we go. 20 minutes, CWC World title on the line. And our first ever champion is going to be... Well, it's going to be that guy. If you were watching, you will know who it is. If not, hopefully it'll be a nice little surprise for you. So there we go. Fatal 4-Way booked. We don't really have much time for any other matches of note. We could maybe do... We could essentially do 2 matches, and we could have Captain Canada taking on Murray Firth again. This time we'll get Murray to get a bit of revenge. Let's make it a tainted victory. Because I do see Captain Canada as a face. Yeah, I mean, he is essentially a babyface. I think down the line, I probably want to run with faces and heels. But for now, I think it's going to be way too difficult. So yeah, Murray's going to get a tainted victory there. Then we're going to do another match where we're going to have Murray taking on Virgil Voss. And then finally, we'll also have Virgil Voss taking on Captain Canada. Alright, so there's that one. And then finally, once again, Captain Canada and Virgil. Essentially, just to give them, you know, some match experience. They're all three of them are really young, so I feel like it's going to be beneficial just to get them wrestling and on the card a little bit more. Also, hopefully, going to help out their popularity a little bit. So let's make this one the storytelling match. Obviously, you know, there's a bit of a story behind it. They versed each other on the last show. Now, as far as angles go, let's have Americana Road Agent again, and we want to have Alexander Robinson. We'll give him 8 minutes as well. So he's going to come out and obviously announce the... I guess essentially could announce the final two competitors for the match. So I guess, yeah, let's do that. So let's go Americana. We'll make Topher the road agent for this one. And then Spencer Edmund can be in there as well. Give them both a bit of success. I'm not sure if this storyline can actually be advanced. But either way, it doesn't really matter too much. And then I guess we'll either give the angle to Topher. Yeah, I think we'll give it to Topher prior to the main event. So let's do that. Topher Smith, Entertainment. Well, we won't script him either, and we'll give him 8 minutes as well. I just want to see a bit of a sort of contrast between him and Americana in regards to their angles. Okay. We're looking pretty good. I just want to check Captain Canada's skills as well. Okay, so he's pretty bad on the microphone. But I do feel like down the line, Captain Canada and Americana Jr. could really be a somewhat decent tag team. And obviously that will hopefully elevate Captain Canada up a little bit as well. Alright, so let's run CWC Victory. And of course, we are essentially naming our first champion of the series. Alright, so we start off with a 49 rated angle, where we have Alexander Robinson, of course, the owner of CWC. And he announces that Americana Jr. and Spencer Edmund are going to be the final competitors in the Fatal 4-Way match. And of course, he's pretty happy with the 4 competitors in the match. We then go into our first of 3 matches on the sort of undercard. I say the undercard, but obviously they're just not the main event match. The first one getting a 27. We have Captain Canada defeating Virgil Voss in 9:43 by submission with a Montreal Crab. Virgil Voss really off his game. Hopefully we'll sort of turn that around for the next one. We then go into a 26 where we have Murray Firth defeating Captain Canada in 10:19 by pinfall with a handful of tights. Murray Firth was really off his game. Good to see Captain Canada getting better at his gimmick, though. That's a bit of a positive. Also performing pretty well. And finally, the last match, which is interesting. Getting a 30 rating, where we have Virgil Voss defeating Murray Firth in 10:30 by pinfall with an exploder suplex. And Murray Firth picking up a 29 in-ring performance, and Virgil with a 24, despite also being off his game for a second time on this pay-per-view. It's not too bad, though. That's the best match out of the 3. And I kind of expected Captain Canada to potentially be in the best match, so very surprising. And I think I like Murray Firth. He looks like a really sort of arrogant, sneaky sort of heel. I feel like that'll be really good going forward. A little later on in the series. Anyway, we then go into a 42 rated angle. So it's pretty close. Pretty close to Americana Jr. with Topher Smith here. And he also worked the crowd well, using the freedom to improvise to his advantage. So I'm definitely happy with that. Definitely happy. And our main event, I think is that our best match on the series so far? I think it is. We get a 41 rated main event here. We have Topher Smith defeating Americana Jr., Marcel Lafleur, and Spencer Edmund in 1948 when Topher Smith pinned Spencer with a gopher suicide dive. Topher Smith wins the CWC World title. Why doesn't it say title? Do I have to put title in? Maybe I do. Anyway. That's a really good main event. I'm happy with that. Marcel with a 44 in-ring. 41 there for Americana as well. A little bit lower for Topher. But hopefully his popularity will get a decent boost as a result of that main event. Interesting. We got a 39 overall rating, but the show didn't result in any popularity changes. That's a little strange. If you know why that happened, please feel free to let me know, because our popularity is 1. And I'm very confused. Very confused. Anyway, let's go for Topher, let's go for Marcel, and let's go for Americana. Praise all 3 of these guys. There we go, nice and easy. But yeah, that's really confusing. I'm kind of wondering why we wouldn't have gained any popularity there. I'm thinking it might have something to do with... Yeah, I don't know, actually. I was going to say that it might have something to do with it actually being a proper event. But at the same time, I don't know. Could be the length, maybe? Yeah, anyway, I'm just a little bit confused by that one. That is interesting, because we seem to be getting popularity increases from the weekly coalition wrestling. It's just a bit strange, yeah. A bit strange. And we're still at 1 popularity. Anyway, like I said, if you know what's going on, please feel free to leave a comment down below explaining exactly what you think's going wrong or what went wrong with that pay-per-view. I'm really taken back a little bit by that. I'm kind of wondering... Yeah, I mean, if we can't get any popularity increases from our sort of big events, big monthly event, that's going to be pretty detrimental. And it would almost not even be worth running one of those and instead just be running the weekly show. But like I said, if you know why, feel free to let me know. We might record in advance, but obviously, you know, I guess with the next pay-per-view, it'll be a bit of a experiment to see if it happens again. Anyway, we got another incident this time with Murray Firth and Virgil Voss. Yeah, I gave another stern warning, and unfortunately, it's taken a negative impact on Murray, and now Virgil is upset at me because it was apparently too soft. And we've also got our champion, Topher Smith, doing a little bit of shenanigans backstage as well. And now Virgil has morale issues. Perfect. Okay, interesting. Topher's actually up to a 21 popularity in Ontario. Murray's at a 16. Marcel's at a 22, so I think we kind of know who our first sort of feud is going to be between. And Americana is up to an 18, so that's not too bad either. Let's go another generic venue. And I think let's go for a tag team match for this show. Let's use the same competitors from our Fatal 4-Way match. Let's go Americana and Topher to take on Marcel and Spencer. So we'll give that 20 minutes. I guess let's give Marcel the victory, and the loser can be Topher, but we will make it a tainted victory. And that'll essentially be the reason why Marcel gets another title shot, this time singles match. Let's see, can we do any hiring? Let's have a look if we can hire some local workers as well. I mean, Art Reed is probably going to be pretty expensive. Yeah, 160 per show. Yeah, we could get Mosher in. He's going to be 80. Nathan Black is retired, and Owen Love is a road agent. Got 70 popularity, though. He could be an interesting one for us to pick up in the future. I guess we won't be picking up anyone at the moment. Not great. Anyway, what we'll do instead, we do have Jason Van Pelt, so we'll get him into a match with, I think, Captain Canada. Kind of works. Give that 12 minutes. And Jason can get the victory. Kind of needs it a little bit more. And I guess while he is here, we may as well use him, so I think that kind of works pretty well. And then our other match, let's do sort of a rematch from the pay-per-view. Murray Firth and Virgil, of course, they both have a little bit of issues with each other, so I think I want to give the victory to Virgil. Just because, of course, he's unhappy, so I want to try and get him out of his morale issues as soon as possible. I have noticed that the morale issues do seem to be quite difficult to get rid of unless you're sort of throwing money at people. They're kind of just hard to get rid of. I don't really know. Phrasing, all that type of stuff doesn't even really work, to be honest. I haven't really seen any sort of proper decreases in people's morale issues. Anyway, let's go with a dual angle for Americana Jr. and Topher. Let's have them both unscripted. Give them 8 minutes as well. And then I think in the other angle, I want to have Jason Van Pelt and Alexander. I mean, they can both be rated on entertainment there, I think. That shouldn't be too bad. That also looks like a relatively good show as well. I'm happy with that. So let's run this one as well. We start off with a 42. So it's a relatively good angle. And yeah, they both did pretty well without a script. And once again, Americana not doing too well without his normal road agency. Well, obviously, Alexander is our normal road agent. And Americana is definitely not a road agent, despite having relatively good psychology. Anyway, Alexander essentially says that, if Jason Van Pelt wants to get involved in the world titles sort of picture, he needs to sort of lift his game and do a little bit better. There have been times when, he has worked for other companies and put other companies ahead of CWC. And Alexander says if he wants to be champion here, he's really going to have to work at it and make sure he starts picking up some victories. We then go into the opening match on the card, getting a 25. We have Virgil Voss defeating Murray Firth in 11:42 by pinfall with a Super Exploder. Very similar in-ring performances there as well. We then go into a 27 where we have Jason Van Pelt defeating Captain Canada in 11:52 by pinfall with an axe kick. 32 in-ring performance there from Van Pelt. Not too bad. We then go into a 38 rated angle where we have Americana Jr. and Topher Smith essentially trying to get on the same page with each other. As you can see, Americana Jr. working the crowd well, again being off script. And the main event does really, really well, getting a 40 match rating where we have Marcel Lafleur and Spencer Edmund defeating Americana Jr. and Topher Smith in 2025 when Marcel Lafleur submitted Topher with a Parisian chicken wing after blatantly cheating. And once again, Spencer essentially being the weak link, but I feel like he does have a lot of upside to him, despite only getting a 26 in-ring performance. But yeah, that essentially is a non-title victory pinfall. I guess it is a tag team match, but still, yeah, Marcel pinning the current champion, Topher. Overall show rating getting us a 37, and as you can see, it increased our popularity in one region. So I don't really understand how that worked. This is only a weekly show, and obviously your monthly events should be higher prestige. Maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe you need to get a better rating. But the way TEW used to work is it would be very, very easy to gain popularity for a company of this size. So I'm taken back a little bit. We're still only one popularity in Ontario. So that's unfortunate as well. But good to see that our prestige and our momentum is slowly starting to creep up a little bit. Let's have a look at the title itself. Still only 30 prestige, but that's perfectly fine as well. One thing I would like to do, possibly, is to essentially go in for our mid-card title, and I want to try and purchase one of CGC's old title belts. I'm assuming this is probably not the screen to do it in. I think it would be investments. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's have a look at it. CGC, we've got the Canadian, and that is essentially the title I want to purchase. As you can see, it has really good prestige. Only cost about 10,000 for us to purchase. Obviously got a relatively long history of champions, which is really cool to see. Some really good champions in there as well. You know, Ricky DeColt, Zeus Maximilian, Joey Poison, Aussie Golden, Christian Price, who I think is the current CWA world champion as well. Got Dan DeLay in there, John Maverick, Ed Monton. I mean, there are a lot of really good sort of champions. Even Lobster Man is in there quite a few times. So, you know, that's what I think we want to do. It is the title that I edited slightly. I did a little bit of work to it. I did kind of keep the CGC up the top there, just as like a little bit of a nod. But obviously I put our company logo over the side plates there as well. Similar to how we've done for this title, as you can see. So that's kind of the plan for our mid-card title. Obviously, we want our world title to be more prestigious than that belt. It could have been interesting for us to maybe purchase their world title, as it has 69 current prestige, and obviously a relatively good title, or linear title history there as well. That one would have been 35,000. So that could have been something, but I guess starting from scratch is probably better for our own company. But I definitely want to get the Canadian title, which, like I said, is going to be our mid-card belt. I feel like it fits pretty well. It's a nice looking belt as well. Anyway, let's advance to one more show. I think we'll just do one more for this episode. Possibly. We might do two. We'll just have to wait and see. I did say that I wanted to add a few people. Maybe 2 more wrestlers to the roster. I don't want to go too crazy. And again, we don't really have a lot of options either. One thing I do want to look at actually is the frequency of workers being added to the game. That might be something we want to sort of increase relatively, quickly or highly. Because if we can get more workers in Ontario, even if they're pretty bad, as long as they're cheap and young, right now that would be super beneficial. We could also probably just go in and sign most of the ACPW workers. Because they're in, I think they're in Montreal. And essentially Montreal is the region next to Ontario. So I think that's the reason why most of our workers that were brought in don't have travel costs associated. So let's have a look here. So these are kind of all the guys that are quite good. Interesting that Mario De Silva has accepted a contract offer from Black Maple. He's relatively good. Maybe I should have tried to sign him. Although he's 140 per show. Yeah, I'm guessing most of these guys are probably going to be that expensive. Would we get away with... Yeah. I feel like that's kind of going to be the... I mean, Ant-Man was the only one that we could probably bring in. I kind of said that I didn't want to bring him in, but the more I look at him, he's actually really good. I just don't like his gimmick. He's also been hired by Black Maple as well. Very, very interesting. So has Kenny Calloway. Of course, they do have the money. So that's something we have to essentially be wary of. They've got money to spend. I mean, Philip Lagroniere would be a very, very solid pickup as well for our company. Unfortunately, he's way out of our price range at the moment. I mean, Stan Manor, I mean, he's in Manitoba, so we'd have to probably pay for him. I think we looked at him last episode, didn't we? I'm not too sure how much the travel cost would actually be. I think we'll wait off on him. Let's edit this a little bit. Let's get rid of this as well. Back down to 0. And I think we want to... Let's have a look at people based in Ontario. Interesting. TJ Bailey, currently working for Black Maple as well. Going to be 110 per show. It's just out of our price range. This guy, though, Taylor Kidd. We could get him in as well. Also working for Black Maple there. Let's get him in. I mean, they're only paying 20, so I want to try and get 20 as well. But he wants 30. Okay. Alright, so there's another worker in. Taylor Kidd. I mean, he's not bad. He's actually relatively good. Good basics. Yeah, I mean, star quality's pretty bad, but they can't all be good, so... Shiva, also working for Black Maple. I mean, Kamikaze would be perfect The only downside to him is the fact that he's working for 2 other companies, Olay, of course. But he is a current champion. He's only going to be 40 per show, so I feel like we may as well get him in as well. Once again, we'll try to do 30. Yeah, he wants 40. Understandable. Alright, so there's 2 more workers. I mean, Clutch McCain could be another one. He's a little bit pricey. So I think we'll just stick with those 2 for now. I feel like that's kind of what I wanted. I only wanted 2 more. So let's run into the next show. This time we actually have no incidents, so that's perfect. Alright. Hopefully we'll gain another point of popularity after this one. So the main event for this show, I think we want Jason Van Pelt and Marcel Lafleur. I feel like that'll be a relatively good main event. And we are going to give Marcel the victory. We're trying to build him up a little bit. As he's going to be, well, he is the current #1 contender. For our other matches, let's go with Murray Firth and Topher in a non-title match. Obviously, the champ going to pick up a victory there for himself, as you would expect. And then finally, I think we have enough for a tag team match, yeah. So let's go Americana, Captain Canada, taking on Spencer and Virgil. Obviously, we shouldn't really be doing tag team matches at this point in the series. But just so it's something different. Don't want to be doing, you know, all singles matches all the time. Even though that does kind of make sense for the sort of financial side of things. I do think we should be fine. But, you know, I just want to make sure. That we're, you know, changing things up a little bit. So we'll do that one there. Let's go with... Yeah, let's go, once again, we'll go Alexander Robinson in the angle. I think Jason's got relatively good psychology, so Alexander Robinson, Americana Jr., and we'll go Captain Canada together. And that can be our starting angle. I think that looks pretty good as well. Alright, let's run the show. Starting off with a 52 rating, where we have Alexander Robinson. And he's sort of just more or less hyping up the upcoming tag team match to open the show. And he says the 2 masked competitors are going to be teaming up tonight in Americana Jr. and Captain Canada. That's a really good segment, really good angle there. Hopefully it's going to rub off a little bit on Captain Canada, as he kind of needs a bit more popularity at the moment. The match itself gets a 35, where we have Americana Jr. and Captain Canada defeating Spencer Edmund and Virgil Voss in 11:46, when Americana Jr. pinned Spencer Edmund with an American Crush. As you'd expect, Americana carrying the match. We then go into a 27, where we have Topher Smith defeating Murray Firth in 12:12 by pinfall with a Gopher suicide dive. And we also had Murray Firth really off his game. Definitely dragged the match rating down a little bit. We then go into a 41 rated angle for Marcel Lafleur, of course the #1 contender. And of course he's got a pretty big match up next against Van Pelt. And that's a really good match rating. It's our highest ever match on the series so far, getting a 44 for this main event, where we have Marcel Lafleur defeating Jason Van Pelt in 20 minutes 8 seconds by submission with a Parisian chicken wing, and Marcel picking up another nice victory for himself. 41 in-ring performance again. Looking like a pretty solid competitor for that world title. And that is a really good show rating. We get a 43 overall. And again, get the popularity increase there as well. 43. I wasn't really expecting that. Let's have a little look at CWA. Interesting. Their main event was actually a women's match. Brooke Tyler defeating Lauren Easter. I mean, it's a pretty good show. Very low TV rating, though. Very, very low. And to be fair, this match also did almost as well. Aaron Knight really carrying Danny Draper there. And they also actually got another 81 on the show. With, Skip Bowe and Jared Johnson defeating Lee Rivera, and Mountie Man. Interesting. Okay. Good to see that. I kind of want to also have a look before we end the episode. Let's have a look at Black Maple and sort of see what they've actually done. So they've actually had two events. And they're doing really well. They are doing really, really well. They got a 53 for their first show. And of course, they've actually got 2 titles there as well. The BMCW heavyweight title and the BMCW television title. So they're going in really hard, pretty much from the get-go. And Canadian Crusher would be a decent option as well. Of course, I had him back on my Road to Glory back on 2016. We might bring him in as well. He's pretty much as bad as he was back then. But of course, he's got the good star quality, good menace as well. He's only going to be cheap. We'll try and get him for 30. But he does want 40, so we'll give him 40. 40 is relatively cheap still. And I think he could be a pretty good option as well, especially down the line. Probably a little bit too old to actually improve. But he could also just be like a mid-carder for us in the future. Let's have a look at their second event here as well, Against All Odds. It's a little bit worse than the last one, but still a really good show overall. Excuse me, I feel like Eric Blackley would also be a pretty good option for us a little bit down the line in the future. Honest Frank also became the owner. They've lost a little bit of money though so far. I think what I will do, at least at the start, is when their money starts to go down low, I think I'm going to pump them up with a bit more money. And essentially what it will be, I know it's essentially cheating, but what I want it to symbolize would be Honest Frank essentially using his own money as sort of like a sugar daddy to the company, similar to like Tony Khan in real life with AEW. You know, essentially throwing in his own money just to try and get the product working. Doesn't really care too much about the whole financial side of it. Obviously, you know, they've signed some really good workers, really good referee as well. And that's sort of their prerogative, or at least Honest Frank as the new owner of the company. They've got a massive roster already. I just noticed that. That's a lot of people. Anyway, I feel like it's just kind of a cool little side challenge for us to try and beat them. And I feel like it's going to be beneficial going forward. Anyway, let's finish the episode off with a creative meeting here. Now, this is surprising. Spencer Edmund is our number 1 in franchise players. Despite only having 17 popularity, he essentially is seen as the best worker in our company. Now, I kind of would agree with that statement, but I feel like he's not as good as some of the other guys, but his star quality charisma essentially is. So he's definitely got the potential to be the best worker on our roster. The other ones, we got Jason Van Pelt here. I mean, one thing we should do, actually, I'll do it in a second. Anyway, Jason Van Pelt, number 2. Obviously, he's very good. We then got our number 1 contender for the world title, Marcel Lafleur, in at number 3, up to 26 popularity there now. That's really good for Ontario. Americana Junior, number 4, sorry. And of course, we all know how good he is. Super good basics. Hopefully, the basics will rub off a little bit onto everybody else on the roster, because that'd be really beneficial. And in at number 5, we've got our world champion, Mr. Topher Smith, only up to 20 popularity. So he's quite a bit lower than Marcel, which I find pretty interesting. Anyway, next big things, we've got nothing. Hot prospects, we've also got nothing, which is strange considering Spencer is only 20 years old. Talk the talk, we've got Alexander Robinson. Showstoppers, essentially just our franchise players. Ring generals, exactly the same. Who's hot? I mean, kind of just the guys we've actually given victories. Who's not? I mean, essentially, unfortunately, Spencer finds himself in here, but we haven't really done anything with these guys. And our hidden gems, most of these guys we will probably sign in the future once we have some money. Raphael, 100% will be signing him. I really, really like Raphael. I feel like he could be a decent champion for us. Never really looked at Rockin' Ryan Turner. I mean, he's not bad. I feel like he could be a solid option, probably for the mid-card once we get a bit bigger. Obviously, we've got Robin Newman. Yeah, I mean, I like Robin. I would probably bring him in. He's only going to be a mid-carder, though, for us in the future. Romeo Romaro, sorry. Similar sort of thing for him. He's too old to really develop. We might not bring him in. But Riley Patton, yeah, I think we'll take a miss on Riley. I don't think he's going to be good enough. Okay, so there's the creative meeting. Now, the next thing we want to do, which could essentially screw us up. Maybe we don't do it yet. Let's do this. Where would I find it? Oh, down here. Relationships. So essentially what we want to do is go to Black Maple. And let's adopt hostile attitude. And there we go. So we're not at war with them yet, because I feel like it would be almost too early for us to go to war. And of course, we need to sign workers. So we both have a negative view of each other's companies. And I think down the line, we'll accelerate that up into a war between the two companies. And essentially what will happen then is neither company will be able to sign a worker for both companies. So, for example, we're currently signing Canadian Crusher. And in order for him to accept our offer, he would then have to stop working for Black Maple. It's basically exclusive contracts, but only between the two companies that are currently at war. And then obviously you have, the other things that come with being at war, the results between, the companies themselves. Anyway, that's going to be it for the episode, guys. Please make sure you smash the like button. I would really appreciate it. And thank you for all the support on the previous episode as well. Really does mean a lot. Make sure you subscribe to the channel with the notification bell turned on. And of course, that will hopefully keep you up to date with all these episodes coming out. As far as the schedule goes, I feel like this series, it's essentially going to be the main series on my channel. Obviously, we're playing a couple of other games at the same time, being Football Manager with Arsenal, and of course, Transport Fever with the No Loan Challenge. But basically, this series is going to be every other day. And then in the days in between, we're going to have a Football Manager episode. And then, of course, back to Local to Global. And then the next episode on the channel will probably be Transport Fever, and then Local to Global. So it's going to be the most frequent on the channel. And I feel like that's kind of what everybody wants at the moment. And yeah, it's kind of what I want as well. I'm really keen to get stuck in here and to get this company up and running and pushing forward. Because I want to be competing with CWA sooner rather than later. Hopefully in the first 50 episodes, we can try and get up to their sort of size. I feel like that'd be pretty amazing. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. As always, take it easy, and goodbye.